All right, guys, it is 3:30. It is Friday, October 31st. It is Halloween, and the market is having a 2 o'clock rally late in the afternoon, snapback rally. Gonna have to say we love it. Was not expecting that. I was expecting risk off all the way to the end, but it seems to be right at that 1:30 time frame. That was it. And all this weakness we saw, I kind of ran out of gas, and we started seeing a slight recovery. Um, After they took out this resistance area at the 6860s, started trading up above that. It had at least an inkling that something was going to be working out, at least in our favor. And so far, we've been pretty much on a straight upswing since. If you try to get short on the way up here, you're just getting caught. This has been no relief to get out at all. And so they stalled a little bit at this rotation. But now they had a look at this last rally. That's absolute total squeeze. And they're going to be up here testing the high of the day here in no time. So nice move to the upside. But everything is back in the green again, and we are liking it. That's a great way to end up the month. Little rally. Let's see if they can hold that into the close. But chances are they will. Chances are they may get a little bit even more strength going into that last part of the day, especially when it looks like this. So the last thing to look for is getting short against that 6900 level. That would be the last one, in case they can't take out the highs. But if they take out the highs, we're going to be seeing a pretty strong close. There you have it. The market's showing some real strength going into the afternoon, into this into the overnight, Sunday into Monday. Now we're shifting time. Remember that we're doing a time shift, rolling it back an hour going into Sunday, so it's going to be an hour off on Monday morning, and we'll see how the whole thing shakes out. But so far, pretty strong close. At least what it looks like for now. So I'm going to start off range bound, unless for they for some reason end up taking out these highs, the 6915s. Maybe start thinking about the long side going into the overnight. But chances are we're probably going to stay in this range around the 6900 and then start off range bound. The interesting part though is we did extend on the downside, so we're technically in stage two still. We haven't really quite stayed within the range. So at this point, I mean, we are in stage two going into Monday. So we'll see if we can get the whole day into in the range, and then we'll be in stage three. So kind of interesting how that turned out, right? Looking at the bonds and the notes, I have not traded the E yesterday, but I did take a trade on the bonds early on. I was at this early on in ZA. Took that trade, and I just explained that in the last update. That was that first retest at the open. Usually, I don't like to trade at the open, but it's been a pretty good spot to get the retest working. I did have to fade a couple of ticks of heat on that one. They popped the 2 ticks, and then they ran down. And when they came down, I got 1 tick. I scratched that trade, took 1 tick out of it. Sometimes it's a little bit of a chicken, it's a chicken move. So you should probably be a little bit more patient. However, you can see what happened next, right? So if I hadn't gotten out of that trade, I mean, I got 1 more tick, and then I would have to fade a bunch of heat before it actually worked out. So it's, as you can see, it's not necessarily a shitty maneuver to get out of it. I did though miss the re-entry here at the retest at 22. That was a beautiful retest failure trade. You can see this right up here. That's your 22 retest failure. No, that's not it. Let me see. It's this guy right there. If I scroll back, this is your retest failure. An unfinished auction at 22. And I just beat myself because not freaking paying attention. That was a beautiful retest failure right up here. I'd had it work in order at 22 for a while. But when it started trading lower, I canceled it. And then I didn't pay attention to this run up here. Could have been a beautiful setup and a nice winner too. Anyway, so at this point, range bound trading on the bonds going into the overnight hasn't really moved directionally a whole lot. So stay range bound on the bonds going into the overnight Sunday, Monday. When it comes to NASDAQ, one trade on the NASDAQ, that was at late in the session, late trade. That was like towards the end of the run. But I tried it and I got out. When it stalled down here towards the lower end of the range, they were kind of at support, so they were down here at this support area, and I was expecting to try to challenge it a little bit harder, the 870s. But it didn't look like it was going to work. So I just got out of that trade, got the $50 out of that little trade, little baby trade, right? That's $50. And I did not do anything after that. Then you had a little hullabaloo back and forth, and then you start seeing the grind to the upside. So after they took out this area, the 950s, then you started getting a sense that we could have a little bit of strength going here. But this rundown, this last little rotation back and forth, this one could have gotten you caught on the long side when it looked great. And if you didn't pay attention, you got flat out shaken out of that one. So no matter what you did, they ran the stops above the high and then below the low, and that's what happened in that little maneuver right there. And then after that, they kind of just started the net buying. So this is just algos running it, and they know the rotations. So we had rotation here at the 950s. They ran the stops above that, ran it right back down. They had the rotation down here at the 893. They ran the stops below that, and then they started taking out. So trading this would have been absolutely dangerous, you know. But I didn't. I was kind of done at that point. So one trade there 51, one trade on this one 31. So that's kind of the net result. Yeah, I wish I had the staying power for a little bit bigger trades. I'm trying to get into that and to really be more patient about it. But it is not trading Nasdaq. You kind of had to be super quick and nimble, unless you get really on a good trade from the get-go. But it's so volatile, it'll shake you out in a heartbeat. So that's it. And you can be right on the direction, you're still getting shaken out. Same goes for the ES. You can be right on the direction, you keep getting shaken out because you're just right on the wrong side of it. So that's the bonds and the Nasdaq. So range bound bonds, Nasdaq depends a little bit where they end up closing now. They're up here against the mean, but they are up. I mean, they are above the 26,000. So as long as they hold above that 26,000 level, I think we are in a good shape to stay range bound going into the overnight. They have not extended to the downside today. They stalled at 880s, not quite at the low of yesterday. So Nasdaq is in stage 3 and ES in stage 2. Interesting, huh? So anyway, we'll see how that shakes out for today's trading. But anyway, so I will start range bound on the bonds, range bound on the Nasdaq. Looking at oil and gold finally. I did not trade those two today, but you can see gold had a little bit of weakness in the afternoon, and then they're kind of back up to the middle again. But not much action going on in gold. It is pretty volatile, and you have quick runs and pullbacks and stuff. So it's not easy to trade this by any means. And then the oil, a little bit to the upside, but pretty range bound. So that will start off range bound ES, and we'll start off range bound gold going into the overnight. Gold has a wide range, but it's still not moving a whole lot. I mean, as you can see, the range is still pretty range bound, centering around 4,000. So I would sell up to that level, the 4050s, buy down to this level, 3980s, and then just kind of trade that range. If you're going to trade gold, it is fraught with traps and issues and stuff. So it is not an easy market to trade. A little bit too volatile. All right, back to the ES. And okay, we took out the mean. We're back to the mode. We're almost back up to the high here of the day session. So we'll see how they end up closing. But it looks to me like both of them, both ES and Nasdaq, we're starting off range bound on those two going into the overnight. And let's see what happens. So turned out that we got a little bit of profit taken early on, a little bit of risk off stuff, and then a nice profit hunt going into the end of the quarter. Or so end of the month. They're not the end of the quarter yet, but end of the month. And then let's see how this whole thing actually closes. We have another 20 minutes. A lot can happen. All right, guys, we leave it there for now. And I will see you back bright and early on Monday. And remember, time shift. You have this, it's going to be an hour more to sleep, I believe, on Sunday. All right, guys, see you back on Monday. Have a good weekend later.